Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday morning Bible study. We're going to study the book of James the next 5 or 6 weeks. And to get started, we're going to watch one of these little videos. You've seen these before. Daniel has shown these before. And these videos are showing, it's just a little 8-minute overview of the book of James. And then we'll get started with our class, okay? Daniel, if you'll get us going. All right. This is an 8-minute video, and then we will get started with our class.
The letter of James.
It's not connected to speakers up here. No, that's not what it does. It should connect. Did it play through when you prepped it the first time? Didn't play over this?
Or at least that's his name in English. If you look in the Greek, you will see that his name is Yakovos, which translates his Hebrew name Yaakov. And that's why most ancient...
Can you hear it? Not too good.
Why didn't you tell me you're going to do this?
We don't have to do it right now. It's a good enough.
It's a chore to do. It's got to be set up, right?
Hang loose, everybody. Captions down there at the bottom. What do you think? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay now? I think you got it right. Good. Okay, James. We're going to review every time that we come together a few things about the book of James and about the writer of James. And we'll get started here. It was most likely written by James, the brother of Jesus. Okay? James, the brother of Jesus. Was he a full brother to Jesus? Why was he not a full brother? Different father. Okay? Who was James's father? Joseph. Joseph would have been his father. Joseph was not the father of Jesus. Who was? God was the father. They had the same mother, though, didn't they? There's some people that would teach that Mary stayed a perpetual virgin, but that's not true. The Bible teaches that Jesus had 4 brothers, and he had sisters, so he had at least 2 sisters. And we're going to talk about this. The book of James, and Daniel talks about this a lot. It's not really a book. It's what? It's a letter, okay? It's an epistle is the word they used back then. But it is a letter, okay? And how many letters or epistles are there in the New Testament? How many? You may not know this now, but you're going to know it before this class is over. What do you say? I thought you raised your hand. She's scratching her head. Just in the New Testament. Letters in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are not epistles. They're not letters. Daniel. It's 21 epistles, I think. I think there's 21. You don't do Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. You don't do Acts, and you don't do Revelation. And that's the rest of them really are pretty much letters. And 4 of the books in the New Testament from prison. Where? He was in prison in Rome, okay? So, epistles in the New Testament, letters. Most scholars believe the book of James was written around 48 AD. This is what most people think. It could not be written any later than 62 AD because James was killed in 60. He was most likely decapitated. What does that mean? Had his head cut off. That's tough, isn't it? That's tough. That's a tough way to die. This is the brother of of Jesus. And who were Jesus' brothers? James, Joseph, Jude, and Simon. James and Joseph, Jude, and Simon, okay? Simon was the odd man out. Everybody else had a J name, even Jesus. But he became Simon. And yes, Danny?
Probably 4 of the 6 or 7 most common names.
Yeah.
In at the time too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Just like Mary. Just like Elizabeth. There was a lot of Marys, a lot of Elizabeths. And those are good names. They're really good names. And we have names like that today that are still popular. Mary is still very, very popular. I don't know if it's as popular as it was years ago, but it's still very popular. What's another man's name that's very common? John. How many Johns are there? There's a lot of Johns. And different families have different names that they carry down through the generations. But John, James, Jim, they named the little action figure G.I. Joe because there were so many people named Joseph back in the World War II era, okay? And so when they named this little action figure to sell as a toy, they saw government issue G.I. Joe, okay? And very, very easy to say, easy for little kids to like. And so everybody wanted a little G.I. Joe. But Jesus had 4 brothers, James, Joseph, Jude, and Simon. Boo, good answer. Did Jesus' brothers believe in him? Okay, not at first. What does this say? Read this for me. John 7, 3 through 5. Someone read it for me. Even his brothers did not believe in him. Jesus, from all indications, grew up pretty normal, didn't he? Was he kind of about like everybody else? He was special. He talks. The Bible tells us when he's 12 years old, he's talking with the elders in the temple, the Jewish leaders, and he's asking them questions. They're asking him questions. So a lot of people say he worked as a carpenter with his daddy. That's probably quite likely. But he was 30 years old before he went out on his own, okay, as a preacher. That seems a little old, don't it? Even for us today. If we send people to college when they're 18, and usually by the time they're 22, they're done, or 23, they're ready to go. And Jesus waits till he's 30. Wonder why. This is just a wonder. It's not a real...
Speculation is that him and his father were forced into labor to build some of the cities for Herod that he was building at the time. And so that's why you don't see anything past his teenage years about Jesus in history.
That's I've never heard that before. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. The fact is Jesus. Now, are you more mature at 18 or 30? Right. Depends on who you are, Melvina says. Well, I think there is difference in people. And I've seen people that's 60 that aren't very mature, and you all have too. And but typically you're more mature, okay? Why is maturity a good thing? For instance, as a preacher, you're more stable, more wisdom, right? What else? What, honey? You need to be taken seriously. Most churches would be reluctant to hire a 22-year-old preacher just out of preaching school, wouldn't it, or college? And that doesn't mean he can't do it, but that's just a fact. They'd like somebody a little more experienced, okay? Most churches want a man that's married. That doesn't mean all of them do, and they don't have to be. Yes, Danny? That's exactly right. I think you're right. It's impossible to get, right? It's yeah. Right. If you got on a 767, Connie, and you and Tony are going to Spain, and they said, now here's Billy Bob, he's 22 years old, and it's the first time he's ever flown with these planes. You're going to be... Or there's Pete, he's been flying the plane, or Sally, this is her 55,000th trip across the ocean. That's just the way we are. Mary, did your doctor the other day say he never had done the size of surgery that you kind of need? That's not exactly, it's not exactly uplifting. Yes. Mary's knee surgery is going to be it's very real. Yes, Daniel.
But now, when Jesus starts preaching, it's clear that he hadn't done it before,
right.
Or at least not to any significance, because people say, is this not the carpenter's son?
Absolutely.
And so I do think that his, whatever, I heard what being said there about his, speculation.
Yeah.
What it was. But it's pretty clear that he was not out preaching before. Like, it's not like there's 12
I agree.
him preaching and he just didn't pick it up
right.
at the very end. Because people seem kind of, that they were not really taken with his background history, I guess you could say, whenever he started preaching.
That's perfect. Daniel, how old were some of the founding fathers when they started America? 26, 21, some of them were. They're young, pretty young, okay? And it probably took some young people to do it. Why? I've got a great idea. Let's go up against the strongest country in the world, and let's just declare our independence, and we'll whip them. What, honey? They're much more brazen. Yes. Yeah. The other day when I started watching something about the founding of they were quite young. How old was Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the, I can't remember. But they're young, these men are, okay? But they're pretty smart, okay? And I went to see a neurosurgeon last year. They talked to me about my back, and he said, well, surgery, but you got lots of issues with it, but you don't need surgery, and that was fine. So before he comes into the room, I've never seen him in my life. Deb and I looked at his picture in the little manual there online, and we guessed how old he was. Okay, and I said, well, he's 36. And the young man walks in there, and he could not have been more polite, friendly, every attribute you want. 5 years old. He'd been out of school for 6 months. That child had been in school since kindergarten for 28 years, counting the work he did with other surgeons. That's a long time. I'm 35. I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to be a neurosurgeon. That's the kind of guy I like. Okay, if I need a back surgery, give me that guy right there. Well, I'd rather have that 92-year-old that's trembly and forgetful. No, give me the young guy. Give me the young guy. I want somebody that can see, that can think, that can hear. I really do. And I think most of us are. Jesus, though, is 30 years old by the time he begins his public ministry. As Daniel said, he absolutely, most likely, there's no really question about it, that he was just kind of a regular guy up until then, okay? He was a regular guy without sin. He would have been special. But I've known people in my life, it looks like, I don't know if they ever sinned or not. I mean, you all know people like that. They're good people. They're just good people. And I know everybody sins. I'm not trying to okay, that there's nobody sin. Can you name me a couple people in the Bible that sin is never attributed to them? Not that they didn't sin, but who comes to your mind? Enoch. Enoch is one. He lived to be 365 years old, and God took him. Who else? John the Baptist, Boo says. That's a good question. I always think of Joshua. There's never anything bad said about Joshua, and there's never anything said bad about Joseph, okay? Those are good people. Now, that don't mean they're sinless. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But it don't seem like they're sinning much because they had opportunities to. But Jesus' own brothers did not believe in him at one point, okay? Did Jesus get mad at him, fall out with them, disown them? No. What did he do? He still loved them. They're his brothers. He didn't disown them. He didn't fall out with them. He didn't get mad at them. He didn't shout them down. Sometimes we have a tendency to do that, don't we? Sometimes we have a... It was. Yes. No. It'd be really hard to believe.
There was some ridicule there too, I believe, because he didn't have the same father. And this wasn't a secret. The Pharisees and Scribes said, well, we know who our dad is and who our father is, and find. Right. I'm sure Jesus had to live here and deal with this not only from them, but also from his brother. I'm
sure he probably did. And I agree with Connie. And we in Kentucky would probably say, well, who's he think he is? He's getting above his race, and he thinks he's special. And that's the way we might say it, right, Jimmy? We might come up with something like that. He's getting above his race. But okay, the book of James, every bit of the passages we're going to look at will be on the screen. I like to put them up there. It makes it easier for us to read them together and to study them together. And does someone read James 1:1 for me?
James, bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings.
Okay, James, he describes himself as what? I've got it highlighted. A bondservant. What does that mean? A willing slave, okay? What typically in America, people that came to be bondservants would serve how long a period of time? 7 years typically. You would be in England, for instance, or Ireland or Scotland or someplace, or Italy, and you want to come to America, and people say, well, I'll pay your way, but when you get there, you've got to work for me for 7 years on the farm or in the store or herding sheep or something like that. And you say, I'll do it. And so after you served your 7 years, then you were free. I know people sometimes that would serve 7 more years, maybe to get some more family members over, okay? And but they were indentured servants or something like that. They were bond servants. And James describes himself as a bond servant of God. Ben says that is a willing servant. Are we bond servants to God? I think we are. Nobody made you come this morning, did they? You weren't under penalty of death or destruction if you didn't show up this morning. You chose to come, okay? I've said many, many times throughout my life, it is an honor to serve in the Lord's kingdom. I believe that with all my heart. It's an honor. Y'all agree? Please shake your head yes that you do. It's an honor to serve in the Lord's kingdom. I have other choices. There's all kinds of things I could have been doing this morning. But I'd rather be here teaching about Jesus Christ and him crucified than anything else. That's what James is saying here. James might not have been a believer, but he's a believer now, okay? And that, I think Ben said it the other night when Johnny was baptized. It doesn't matter when you come to Christ, just as long as you come to Christ. And there's no older brothers here with the prodigal sons coming home that don't like it. We're going to embrace anyone that comes. Well, why did they wait till they're 60 or 70 or 80? I don't care. Embrace them. Embrace them. It does not matter whatsoever. And James here, he's embraced his position. He's a bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. To the 12 tribes. Who does he mean, the 12 tribes? He means the Jews. The Jews. This is primarily who he is writing to, okay? Well, I'm not a Jew, so he's not writing to me, so I don't need to read the book. Would we say that? It's a little practical.
Why would you read the Old Testament?
Why would you read those? I don't want to listen to this person because Jews are the way that they live their life. But if I see a person on the street that's a terrible alcoholic, and that terrible alcoholic tells me, Shelby Roy, please don't ever start drinking. Is that bad advice or good advice? It's good advice. Well, he's a drunk. He's been drunk for 50 years. It's still good advice, isn't it? And sometimes we'll say that, well, I'm not going to listen to them. I don't got nothing to say to me. I'm not going to listen to them.
Well, we got to remember, too, that this is Messianic Jews that he's writing to. These are Jews
Yeah.
that are believing in Jesus.
That are believing in Jesus.
Give up the old law and are clinging to the new law.
Yeah.
So everything he says still applies to us.
I think still applies to us, yeah. Jefferson was 33. Okay. Some were as young as 26. Some were in their 40s. And like Ben said, the people, or Josh, somebody said, they didn't live to be as old. People didn't back then. But whenever you have the opportunity to do good, you need to do it, don't you? Yesterday, I got to brag on Will just a second. Yesterday, I said, did you see Rhonda and Marvin, this double first cousin, Rhonda and Marvin? They're sitting up from us. And Will said, no. I said, well, they're right over there. And I don't tell him anything, but he gets up, goes over and hugs Rhonda and he hugs Marvin. What's nice of him, okay? You don't have to do that. Mary, you're raising the child right. You're raising the child right. He's a loving, kind young man. And I know they appreciated it. They didn't have to have it. Their life wasn't going to end if he don't hug them. But I probably made their day a little bit better. I guarantee she told Judy when she talked to her, I guarantee she'll tell her sister Judy, well, Will just come over and I can't believe how big he's got. And he come and gave me a hug. That's a good thing. James is writing to the Jews and to us. Okay, someone read 2 through 4.
My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. Let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Okay, Jimmy, whenever you're out there in the hayfield and you're trying to get done because, well, maybe the rain's coming, I don't know, not so much this year. But if the rain and then the hay baler breaks down, to get mad, isn't it? Very easy to get mad. You're trying to do a good thing. I'm trying to put up hay so my little cows can eat this winter, okay? That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You're running an errand for somebody and you need to get this done and take somebody to the hospital. Oh, I've got a flat tire. How can it be joyous like that? It's frustrating, isn't it? Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. Okay? Yes, right. When you fall. I came home from work every day in 1989 from about February till about July. And pretty much every day, with the exception of time to go to church or baseball games or something like that, I was building a barn, tearing a barn. And I'm on top of the barn, and I'm putting the cap on top of the roof, okay? And when you put the cap on top of the barn roof and you're hammering, Jimmy, everything's bouncing, ain't it? You're bouncing, roof's bouncing, the nails bouncing. And I took my hammer and I hit that thumb and hit it hard. Well, I'm standing on top of 35-foot tall barn, and I took that hammer and I threw it a long way. You can throw a hammer a long way when you're hurting and you're mad and you're on top of a barn. You throw it a long way. So I lay down on this hot tin roof just like this, like I'm dead, waiting for the buzzers to come.
And I'm just waiting because it's over. This is it. This is the final straw. I'm not getting any sleep. I'm not getting any rest. And then here comes little sweet Deb out in a minute. I don't know if she saw me laying up on the barn dead or what. But she comes out and she said, honey, are you all right? And I said, oh, I've hit my thumb so bad. And I said, and of course, she's always constantly kind and precious. And she said, oh, bless your heart. And she said, where's your hammer? And I said, I threw it. So I pointed in the general direction, then it's laid back down on the bed. And then she goes over and she looks, and it's a long way, and she finds it. And she says this, wow, you threw the hammer a long way. Well, that perked me up a little bit. I think I'm a pretty good hammer thrower. So I'm feeling a little bit better. So then I make my way down off the barn, and she kisses it, and she pets it, and she loves it. And she, does all the things that she always does. Okay. I don't know if it made me any stronger or not, but the story remains, okay? That hurt. It hurt bad. And I needed some attention, and I got some attention, okay? These people here that are persecuted for the name of Christ, they need attention. But I imagine not long after James' head was cut off, he was with his brother in paradise again. Don't you? When you fall into various trials, knowing the testing of your faith produces patience, okay? I used to get mad. I mean, mad. Did y'all ever get mad? I mean, really mad? Yes, most of us do. Really mad. I got mad over the baseball game. I got mad over the car wouldn't start. I got mad the lawnmower wheel fell off. Get mad. And now if the lawnmower wheel falls off, I think, well, the lawnmower wheel fell off. You calm down a little bit, don't you? Certainly that comes with age and wisdom and experience. It's the first time it ever happened, is it? And I think that James is exactly right. I don't know if you can be joyous, Jimmy, jumping up and down when the hay baler, right? But just understand that this is just part of life. And long as there is life, there's going to be disappointments. And there's going to be things that don't work out, okay?
Going through all these things, you learn not to sweat the small stuff.
Right.
You learn everything is small stuff.
Everything is small
It
stuff.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that wheel falls off.
Right.
Those other wheels you get fixed. Getting mad, getting upset, losing that hour, week, or whatever you're going to be mad about it, does no good.
Right.
You learn that over time. It does no good to blow up about it.
No.
Because you just make a bad situation.
You made the bad. Yes, honey.
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
Bad experience is still good experience.
Yeah,
You
it
just
is.
learn how to do it.
It is. Bad experiences.
Think about David. When David had his flock attacked by the bear and then by the lion, you think, well, what a horrible thing. No, that was building him up to take on the lion.
Yeah.
A lot of these things we go through
Right.
is God building us up
Mm-hmm.
to take on the next bigger, better,
Mhm.
whatever.
I read a thing yesterday, 3 or 4 days ago, and it's talking about children's self-esteem. And they said children that are given responsibility and chores to do tend to have a higher sense of self-esteem than those that don't. Would you all agree with that? I think that's very accurate, okay? Jameson, you give your children jobs to do? You should. I believe you do, and I think you should. Will, if he's at the house and we tell him to do something, he does it, okay? We don't do it to be mean to him, but he's a big help. My dad and mom, they raised us. You go do it. And we went, and it felt good. Daddy said, you did a good job mowing the yard. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? It's a good thing. We are commended by Jesus when we go about doing good. Yes, Ben.
And you can see it in society real bit. Where I'm out there every day dealing with people and stuff. Kids don't know how to interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to deal with looking someone in the eye, talking to them.
Yeah.
They don't have confidence and stuff because they've not had all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it really affects them a lot.
If you go to a fast food restaurant or a restaurant of any kind and you have someone give you good service, you tell them. You should. We went to Culver's the other day in Richmond, and the young man that waited on Deb and me was very kind, very polite. And I said, you certainly are a fine young man. I said, I appreciate the attention and care that you have exhibited here. He lit up, okay? He should. His mom and dad have done a good job raising that child. I don't know who he was. Your testing of your faith produces patience, but let patience have its complete work, that you may be complete, lacking nothing. The word perfect is used as complete, okay? Pete Rose was one of my favorite baseball players, okay? But he's probably one of the biggest knuckleheads I've ever known about from what I've read of things. He's made some really, really bad. Now, we're not talking about baseball. We got baseball. He got to check. But family matters, good decisions, monetary wise, and blah, blah, blah. Not so good, okay? And y'all people know people like that, okay? Sometimes you have to understand that. But we need to try to be as complete as we can be, don't we? So you can be complete, lacking nothing. James 1, 5 through 6. Someone read this. If any of you lacks wisdom, what should you do? Ask your God. Do you all do that? I do. I do it pretty often. God help me with this decision. This is a hard decision. When you're raising children, Marcia McQuarrie told me one time, she told her kids, she said, children, I don't really know what to do at all in every instance. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the best decision I can at the time. That's pretty profound. Decisions that were not good. Were really good. I made some that's in the middle, okay? I think we've all done that, haven't we? We make some decisions that's not good, but we need to ask God. God, help me with this, okay? Jameson, do you ever ask God for wisdom to help your kids? Because you got three different directions, don't you? And it's difficult at times, isn't it? I used to get in the car and drive to the end of the street after sleeping 30 minutes, after working 12 hours, and I'd say, Deb, where are we going? She said, Harrisburg. And I say, which way is that? Because you're still asleep. And turn left. So we turn left. Okay. And after a minute or two or three or four or five, hopefully you're getting roused up again. That's a good point. Good point. But anyway, we make bad decisions, don't we, sometimes? But if we lack wisdom, and do all of us lack wisdom? My good friend Don Carter, who I talked to the other day on July the 4th, he's 88 years old, and he always said, you can't teach judgment. You can't teach it. Is that an accurate statement? You can't teach it. Some people don't have it. There are people that might not ever really speed, but drive through Walmart parking lot 60. That's people have no judgment, okay? That's a terrible thing. We're not talking about driving down US 27 60. That's okay. Not the Walmart parking lot, sweetheart. It's too fast, okay? You're going to kill somebody. People need lacking in wisdom sometimes. So we should ask of God. What will God do? What's this part of the verse say? He gives it to you liberally. He don't fuss at you about it, does he? There's no attached. I'm going to give you all the wisdom that you desire if you will ask me. Do you believe that? How do we know about God? How can we find out about God? Through His Word. If we read His Word, and sometimes I'm in the swimming pool and the iPod plays the next song, and the next song might be James chapter 1. And this person reads it very well, and I listen to that message, okay? I'm floating on the back in the swimming pool. But He's given me wisdom, isn't He? We can do that when you're driving down the road or when you're just contemplating. God will give you wisdom liberally and without reproach. But you should ask in what? Faith. Ask it in faith.
I always like to tie this verse to the other ones where he's talking about trials and difficulties, especially like dealing with difficult co-workers or bosses or whatever it may be. You don't know how to handle that situation. You go to God and say, God, help me to deal with this situation. I don't know how to get through this trial. I don't know what you're trying to show me by me going through this. What do I need to learn?
Right.
And trust me. That's
Yeah.
faith shot. All right, God, I'll turn it over to you. I'm going to trust
Yeah.
you. Don't turn it over to Him. Then when He gives you a solution or an answer or the situation fixes itself, then try to give it some other way or go some other way. You can't be double-minded. You got to give Him and listen.
Which way do waves go? Whichever way the wind blows them. If the wind blowing from the east, they're going to come from the east, okay? If they're coming from the west, they're going to blow from the west, okay? That's just real simple. Waves don't care. Just whichever. That's the way some people are. Some people, well, Johnny thinks that I should wear my hair like this, but Sally thinks I should wear my hair like this. I'm just in a twixt, okay? Wear your hair the way you want to, okay? Because the people that try to appease Johnny and try to appease Judy and Sally, it's going to be frustrating, okay? Dad sometimes will tell me when we go to a store or something, which I never do, but if I do go to a store and I say, well, I like this, and Deb goes, what does that mean? That means I hate it with every fiber of my being, doesn't it? And Deb, you like this? Okay. Well, if you're married, you have to kind of appease a little bit. But we ask God in faith without doubting. For who doubts is like, well, y'all agree with that? Our time is just about up. I didn't want to go too deep in this chapter because I want to finish it next week. So if you ask God something and you don't believe he's going to give it to you, are you going to get it, Maria? You're not going to get it. There's no chance you're going to get it. There's no chance you're going to get it. None whatsoever. You're unstable in all your ways. You're a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. And in 9 through 11, we'll finish up after this one. Okay. We'll get back with this again next week, but this is just shifted gears a little bit. Let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, and the rich person in his humiliation, because the flower of the field he will pass. Have any of you all got flowers out at your house? Probably just about everybody does. Okay, and they're beautiful, and they will be beautiful for a while longer. But then it don't take long. Like the daffodils we had back in the spring are gone, aren't they? They're beautiful. They come up, it seemed like out of nowhere. There they are. Wow. But they don't last, do they? And that's what will happen with rich people and their money, okay? It was beautiful. I had a mansion, I had a boat, I had a car, I had a truck, I had all this stuff. But sooner or later, it passes away, don't it? And when it passes away, let me tell you, I've told you this 100 times, but I'm going to tell you one more time. Family will gather around and say, I don't want nothing that mom and daddy's got. I'll take these 2 things maybe and this 2 things. Call the auctioneer and say, would you please sell this junk as quick as you can sell it? Get it out of here. And if it don't sell, take it to the dump. Give me the proceeds. Is that what happens? It's absolutely what happens. And they chunk you in the ground, as the song says. And that's not sad. That's just reality, because that's what you did. And that's what your ancestors did. Your mom and dad did the same thing. And your grandpa and grandma did the same thing, okay? That don't mean you didn't love them, but it's their stuff. I don't want their stuff. They don't want mine. We'll talk more about this next week. Anybody got any questions? This is going to be a good study. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you.